Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Ora News broadcast. I'm Daniel Cook, your host for the English edition, in which we are pleased to present the Albanian news in English for our international community. In today's news, another ugly episode took place in today's parliamentary session. While the former Prime Minister, Sali Berisha, was speaking, a physical conflict happened between the Democratic MP, Gent Strazimiri, and the Socialist MP, Pierin Indreu. The deputies immediately stood up and left the room, interrupting the session. In a media statement after this event, Sali Berisha said that this is a repeated case and that the opposition has no place in this parliament. This is a parliament filled with murderers, criminals, smugglers, and rapists, he said. After the speech of Strazimiri, by order of Edi Rama, one of the bandits of the parliament attacked the Democrat MP outside while he was smoking a cigarette. This is an unprecedented act that showed the true face of Edi Rama. In these conditions, there is no longer any room for the opposition in this parliament. It was an ugly and repeated act. The representatives of the people, the opposition, are here to protect the interest of the citizens. But in the conditions that have been created in this parliament, I think that there is no more space for their activities. I guess that Rama has made a big mistake, the provocation of every citizen who believes in civic values, good behavior, dialogue, and democracy. With this repeated act, I personally do not see any room for the Albanian opposition in this parliament. From being the temple of democracy, the parliament has been turned into a nest of crime and criminals, with whom we are not associated, said the former Prime Minister to the reporters. Prime Minister Edi Rama was not silent after the incident that happened in Parliament. Rama said that such violent incidents in Parliament should be punished maximally, despite the political affiliation. According to him, the opposition has misinterpreted the phrase, "Wait because you have not seen anything yet." Rama said that the opposition in the assembly uses verbal violence in every sentence of speech that they hold in the legislative hall. He said, "There is no doubt that we have been, are, and will be against any form of violence, from verbal violence to physical violence. As I did in a previous case, I want to emphasize my position that verbal abuse and unquestionably physical violence exercised by any member should receive a maximum tough attitude," said Prime Minister Edi Rama. A new gun control bill was discussed today in the Parliamentary Assembly, amid a great deal of debate. Today, the Albanian Parliament discussed the bill that was proposed by the Ministry of Interior about the use of arms and regulation of gun ownership. Up until this point, weapons have belonged to the state, but under the adoption of the new, the owner will be the person who purchases the weapon. The Interior Minister, Saimir Tahiri, from the podium of the Assembly, said that this law does not liberalize the right to bear arms, but radically restricts the right to keep a firearm, thus responding to the allegations of the deputies of the Democratic Party that the law liberalizes the right to have a gun. He said, "The law on weapons and the law for the use of weapons does not liberalize guns. It radically limits the keeping of weapons. Before yesterday, even a deputy or a judge were carrying weapons, but today it will not be permitted. There is no need for a judge or deputy to carry a weapon. The state guarantees their safety," Tahiri said. He continued, "We did not draft this law alone, but we did it together with the EU and the PAMETSA experts, who are the co-authors of this law. We will liberalize the right of ownership, which means that the state is not seeking to have ownership of all the weapons, but it distributes ownership to all those people who buy a weapon. No, we will not liberalize. We have sanctioned only one thing, that each individual who wants to exercise the right to bear arms must meet the conditions and criteria, which are many times stronger than you are requesting. We require a detailed analysis of the mental state of individuals who want to carry guns, and unlike you, who gave weapons to everyone, people with mental problems as well. Under that policy, only God saved us from tragedy, said Tahiri. He went on, we want to control the arms market, including where the arms are coming from and why they are coming. Weapons will have the stamp of the Albanian state, established by the Albanian police, and a person who becomes an owner will have his own unique signs, so that he can be recognized by the ballistic evidence of the cartridge. He will be monitored for his mental ability and for the use of weapons, thus providing maximum safety for the citizens, said the Interior Minister. Minister Tahiri also accused the opposition of being the main distributor of weaponry in the country. Your Prime Minister distributed weapons throughout the country in 1997. Your Prime Minister killed 4 innocent citizens on January 21st of 2011, Tahiri said. The debate on the law on weapons began after the declaration of the former Minister of Justice, who is currently a member of the Democratic Party, Edward Halimi. He asked for this law not to be voted on because it would liberalize the arms market in a country where homicide figures are only experiencing growth. He said, when we have a doubling of the murders and violent events in the country, the government comes and proposes the liberalization of weapons in the market. This should not happen, said Halimi. The reaction of the deputy of the Socialist Party, Ermonela Felay, was immediate. She said that if we compare the figures in our time and in your time, you have doubled the crime. This is the gift you left us. We have reduced crime in every corner of the country. The Parliamentary Assembly discussed another new draft law today concerning the Complaints Service. The Albanian Parliament has discussed the draft law proposed by the Ministry of Interior concerning the Complaints Service and the Ministry of Internal Affairs. The chairman of the Security Committee and the member of the Socialist Movement for Integration, Spartak Braho, said that this law is in conformity with the best European standards. He pointed out that Article 73, which speaks about members voluntarily leaving the ranks, is not convenient. He said, this law gives a new face to the internal auditing service, making it a service for the citizens, rather than being used for political interests like it was in the past, said Braho. According to him, this law is coming into full compliance with the requirements of the CITAT and the PAMETSA missions, and the reforms of the ICS both administratively and operationally. He continued, this law brings an ICS upgrade by assessing a democratic model with transparent entities. Luan Rama, a member of the Socialist Movement for Integration, in his speech on behalf of the group, shared the same opinion as the president of the Security Commission. According to Rama, the package presented by the Ministry of Interior has brought significant improvements to the law. The law gives another dimension to the object of work that this service is doing, clearly detailing the right and the authority of the institution, said Rama. According to him, the law creates a fair distribution of administrative and operational attributes, strictly defining the role and the powers that operate in this facility. On behalf of the parliamentary group of the SMI, we agree on this draft law, he said. The rank is a personal attribute, gained through the contribution of each individual's career. We promise that the same standard that is applied to the armed forces will be applied to the structure of the Service Complaints and Internal Affairs in the Ministry of Internal Affairs, Rama concluded. Pierin Ndreu, a member of the Socialist Party and a member of the Security Committee, speaking on behalf of the Socialist Party, said that the draft law on domestic issues is a qualitative step. This law demonstrates the fact that this government is willing to strengthen the state police and to be as transparent as possible. This fact clearly shows how well the new government has worked, said Ndreu. According to him, this draft law best fulfills the purpose of increasing the efficiency of the police to ensure public order and security, reducing the possibility of violating the law. According to Ndreu, the laws have improved year after year, and the service has made progress despite the structure that has been in place. The Democratic Party continues to request an investigation committee to investigate the events of the tax server theft. Today's plenary session began with the opposition's request to discuss the establishment of an inquiry committee on taxes. The deputy Eddie Paloka asked the Speaker of the Assembly, Ilir Meta, to implement the decision of the Constitutional Court concerning the inquiry commission for the tax server. But the latter said that the issue will be discussed on Monday at the Conference of Mayors. Paloka said, "We, as we have stated, will vote and give our contribution to approve any bill required by the EU. There is an issue which has been discussed for more than 1 month, and it is still not included on the agenda. It is an important issue after the clear decision of the Constitutional Court. The Constitutional Court has declared as incompatible the decision of the Parliament not to approve the request of a group of members for an investigation commission into the issue of interference with the tax system. The President of the Assembly, within 5 days from the moment that the decision of the Constitutional Court was made, should have gathered the Conference of Mayors," said Paloka. Paloka stressed that any further delay is legally unjustified. "We note with deep indignation that despite the constitutional duty, despite the fact that more than a month has passed since our application, the discussion for establishing an investigative commission has not yet been included in the agenda. The parliamentary group of the Democratic Party urges the President of the Assembly to include the request for the establishment of the investigative commission in the agenda. Any further delay is legally unjustified. We ask you to give us an answer today about this delay and about this violation," said Paloka. Meanwhile, the head of the Assembly, Ilir Meta, explained that concerning the demand of the opposition, the Legislation Council has come up with 2 approaches, and the decision remains to be made by the Conference of Mayors on Monday. He said, "I want to thank you for your understanding that you introduced the procedure of the agreement with the EU. The Council of Legislation has been informed, and it has gathered. The Council has come up with 2 positions, a position represented by Mr. Bulukbashi and one by a representative of the majority. Concerning its inclusion in the agenda, we should refer to the regulations. On Monday, we will gather the Conference of Mayors to decide how we will proceed with the matter," Meta said. The opposition leader Lulazim Basha participated in the electoral assembly in the town of Vlora. As is his custom, he spoke to his party at the event. In the recent history of pluralism in Albania, Democrats were able to replace the ignorant rulers with intellectuals, to change the country and to undertake major reforms, he said. Just as 24 years ago, Albanians seek this again today, said Basha. They seek the help of the Democrats to escape from the rulers, the depressive, delirious rulers, and from the world of crime that is in power. For this reason, he said that the elections in the Democratic Party are of paramount importance to transform the profile of national leadership. He continued, 24 years ago, we threw down the dictatorship and tore down the communism. We replaced the rulers and ignorance with intellectuals. 10 years ago, the Democrats removed the most corrupted government in Europe, thanks to our political and intellectual elite with Western stature. Albania has asked us to do this great work, and we have honored her, because in our political DNA there is honesty, ability, and freedom. The times have changed, but the challenges remain the same. We hear the echo of a country that calls for help, calls us to save them from the rulers, from the depressives, from the delirious, and from the world of crime. The country once again needs to rely on the strength and integrity of our values. That is why these elections have great importance. We are not electing just some leaders, but a system that will eventually transform the profile of the national leadership, Basha said. A group of the formerly politically persecuted have received the first tranche of compensation for their years in prison. Minister Valiaj said that the government has changed the law in order to accelerate the payments. According to Valiaj, under the new law, those who are still alive are the first to be compensated, and later the heirs of the prosecuted that have been passed on. Valiaj stressed that all the persecuted will be compensated within this mandate. But while Minister Valiaj was distributing the compensation to some of the former politically persecuted, a group of the persecuted protested in front of the parliamentary building, demanding reparations for their years in prison. Two representatives of this group, Skender Tufa and Fatmir Hoxha, stressed that the new government bill does not take into account the needs of the persecuted. We ask for the opening of the files of the crimes of communism. These actions are necessary because the state is controlled by yesterday's spies. The draft does not take into account the needs of the persecuted. The current government has not given any promise, said Tufa. The former persecuted, Fatmir Hoxha, said, "Today we are 40, tomorrow we will be 4,000. They should be transparent about the funds. These people are anti-Albanian, but they will face the force of law," said Fatmir Hoxha. An appeal to return a Court of Appeals judge to her work has been postponed by the High Council of Justice. The Administrative Court has postponed the consideration of a request to return the former Chief Prosecutor, Ina Rama, to work as a judge in the Court of Appeals. The request was postponed and it will be reviewed on the 14th of July, 2014. According to the lawyer, the High Council of Justice decision to reject the request of Ina Rama is unjust and illegal. He said, "The final conclusions were provided and the decision was postponed until the 14th of July. We want the petition of Ina Rama to be admitted." The court set the process in a vicious circle. The court worked with two standards. The High Council of Justice representative will defend their decision. The HCJ decisions are less in tune with the decisions of the court. We have presented our arguments why Ina Rama should be returned to her work as a judge at the Court of Appeals. I am discussing the HCJ decision about Ina Rama. I will define the decision as illegal and unfair, said the lawyer of Ina Rama to the media. The former chief prosecutor, Ina Rama, has submitted a petition to the Administrative Court against the High Council of Justice. The claim was made because the HCJ dismissed an appeal by Ina Rama for returning to work as a judge in the Court of Appeals. At the end of her mandate, Rama was not able to return to her duty as a judge. She worked as a judge before she was the general prosecutor. A prisoner has attempted to kill himself in prison cell 302 in Tirana. It is learned that Nik Lakui cut the veins of his throat and wrists. He was found by the prison security officer lying in a pool of blood in his cell. He was immediately sent to the prison hospital where he was given medical assistance. It is learned that he is now out of danger for his life. Nick Lakai was convicted of killing Ervin Medini on the 29th of April this year. Lakai claims that he was unjustly convicted. The event has also been confirmed by the Department of Prisons, who said that the motive of his attempted suicide was his sentence of 18 years in prison. The Minister of Agriculture is pushing for Albanian restaurants to offer more domestic products. The Minister of Agriculture, Edmond Panariti, has urged the restaurant owners to increase the supply of Albanian products, reserving a special page of their menu for domestic products. I think it is the right of the Albanian consumers to have these options offered on a separate sheet. We are creating a consolidated tradition of Albanian products, said Panariti. The minister urged that special priority should be given to the products that have been certified with the seal of quality, such as wine or olive oil, and to the water produced in the country as well. But business representatives say that there are many cases when the quality leaves much to be desired, while the prices are the same as the imported products. Panariti had this to say: I do not see enough presence of Albanian water in restaurants, perhaps because of the packaging. Let this serve as an appeal to the Albanian water manufacturers to change their packaging. The Italian water in the market has the same price as the Albanian water. The packaging is different. The packaging and quality must be controlled by the state, said Indrit Nureddini, a business representative. Businesses have asked the ministry to strengthen the quality control of Albanian products, including categorization and improvement of packaging. The President of Macedonia has expressed that violence during protests will absolutely not be tolerated. The President of Macedonia, George Ivanov, declared today that protests are a democratic right for expressing discontent, but violence is not tolerable. He declared this today from Ohrid, while he was commenting on the latest developments and protests following the sentencing of 6 Albanians to life in prison, in relation to the murder of 5 Macedonians in April of 2012 in the suburbs of Skopje. He said, "Our state has functioning institutions that are able to tackle any challenge. During these days, I have been in touch with the respective institutions about these violent protests. As institutions, we are coordinating our activities, and we are doing our job. Protests are allowed everywhere. Nevertheless, violence cannot be tolerated anywhere, and institutions are taking measures to stop the violence. All issues can be resolved through the institutions," said President Ivanov. He added that every objection to the court's ruling must be expressed through institutional means. Asked about the burning of the Macedonian flag in the recent protests in Kosovo, which were organized in support of Albanians in Macedonia, Ivanov said that these acts will cause even bigger damage to Kosovo. This has been the Aura News English broadcast. Thank you for watching. Please join us again tomorrow at 6 p.m. for more Albanian news in English, only here on Aura News. Thank you and good night.